Hey, I'm Allison, and this is Realistically Consistent, where we talk about how to build sustainable fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits that actually last even as a busy mom. I'm here to help get you consistent, not perfect, and on your way to feeling like your best self. I'm so excited to start today's episode with you. Let's dive in.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Realistically Consistent. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really quick before we dive into today's topic, I do just want to say if you have been following along with this for a little while now and you have not yet hit subscribe or follow, please take a second right now to do that, as it really helps get the message out to so many other moms and just spread all of the messages that we have to talk about, whether it comes to fitness, nutrition, or mindset. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you're probably starting to realize that the majority of what we talk about here is mindset, because honestly, 90% of your progress comes from mindset. There are so many tools and resources out there for you nowadays. All it takes is typing into ChatGPT exactly what you want and finding a routine. However, if you don't have the mindset that it takes to stick to those routines, it's never going to work for you. And so, what we're talking about today is going even deeper into that mindset. And it's all surrounding the topic of, are you allowing yourself to be influenced? And whether you think so or not, guaranteed you are. It's not a question of if you're being influenced by outside forces, it's how much you're being influenced by outside forces. And so when we say that, yes, I'm talking about social media, but I'm also talking about your family, your friends, your possibly even spouse, your kids, your coworkers. All of these things are influences in your life. And today we're going to address, how much are you letting other people impact the decisions that you make for your own life? Is this one of those things that is holding you back from really seeing progress? And so some of those examples that we can talk about, obviously, social media is a huge one. There are literal influencers out there trying to influence you to do one thing or not do another thing, or whatever it may be, right? And a lot of them are very good at their jobs and influencing others to buy a certain product or act a certain way or dress a certain way. But more than that, there's also your coworkers out there. How often have you packed your own lunch and said, okay, I'm going to be really good today. I'm going to eat this lunch. I have this well-balanced lunch that I'm so excited to eat. And then your coworkers say, hey, we're going out to grab a bite. We're all going. Are you coming? And you say, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to eat this lunch. I'm excited about it. And they peer pressure you and they say, oh, come on, you could do that tomorrow. And next thing you know, you're sitting at Chick-fil-A or Arby's or Taco Bell eating something that's not going to really satisfy you as much as what you brought for yourself, because you were influenced by other people. Or maybe you start packing your lunch differently because you're thinking, well, I know what I like, but gosh, everybody else brings this and they seem to really enjoy it. Maybe I should start bringing that instead. And maybe it's fine, but it's not necessarily what your body needs. Or maybe you're going out with friends for the evening and you go into it thinking, you know what, I'm not going to have a drink. I know that body just doesn't respond to alcohol very well anymore. And you get out there and everybody else is drinking and the wine is flowing and you're being good for the first hour, but everyone starts asking you, are you okay? Why aren't you drinking? Just have one drink. Come on. How much is it going to affect you? And the next thing you know, you're 2 drinks in and you wake up in the morning feeling like garbage. Or another example could be just wanting to start eating healthier and starting to eat cleaner. But then everywhere you go, you're invited out to this event. You have this luncheon at work. You have a holiday coming up. There's a birthday party over the weekend. And you're just thinking, oh my gosh, there's just too much going on this week for me to really focus in on my goals. I'll just start again next week. There's just too much in my house. I'm just going to finish up what's in my house and then I'll start again next week. How many times have we done that? How many times have you started a fitness routine only to have a friend be like, oh, wait, no, I've been going to this place and it's amazing. You really need to try it. You need to come with me. Stop doing what you're doing. Come here. Or for an influencer to be like, are you doing cardio? Cardio is the worst thing that you can do. And then you stop what you're doing completely because you found a good routine in it, but some influencer scared you into thinking it's not helping your body. And you know my stance on cardio, but I will say if there is any amount of movement that feels good that you're enjoying, you should probably be doing it, right? And maybe think about slowly adding other things in that could also benefit you. So maybe that influencer is absolutely correct in trying to get you to, weight train and lift weights, and that's not something you've done before. That could be a way of positively influencing you. But if it's done in a way that makes you fear everything that you have been doing or fear what's going to happen if you don't do it, then maybe that's an influencer that is causing more negative thoughts in your mind than positive ones. And so that's a kind of instance where I would say, take a look at your feed. Are the people that are influencing you people that are empowering you and lifting you up and encouraging you, or people that are scaring you and making you feel guilty into to potentially doing things like that? Because you could have two influencers with the same goal of trying to, tell you how beneficial weight training is and get you into weight training, but they could be doing it in two very different ways. And that in itself is going to set the precedent for why you're doing this for yourself. Do you want to do something for yourself out of fear, or do you want to do something for yourself out of empowerment? And so that is where I always, at least personally, as I'm not an influencer. I am a coach. I am a certified personal trainer, nutrition coach. So even the word influencer, it's tough when you're in this world of social media and you do have true blue influencers who don't have certifications and they are just trying to genuinely influence you to do one thing or another versus certified, educated, trained coaches who are out there trying to give you information. And sometimes it can be really difficult to discern between the two of them. I know for me, I'm just going to throw out another influence for you here, since we're on the topic of weight training. But I just love to share this message because weight training genuinely changed my life. And I know I've said this in previous episodes, but I truly believe not only did it change my body physically in ways that I never anticipated, but truly, if I had never lifted those weights, the confidence that it gave me, the empowerment that it gave me to know, wow, you are so strong physically, gave me mental strength. And it gave me that bravery and that confidence to step away from my job and pursue my passions. And so, again, just so many benefits, but that's a tangent for another day. But I do want to just get back onto, are you being influenced by other people into making certain decisions? And so I want you to really spend some time reflecting, even throughout the day. How many times in a day are certain instances thrown in your face where it's making you maybe change your mind or go against what your gut is telling you to do or change some sort of trajectory that you wanted? And all of these things, maybe some of it is for the best, right? I think that a sense of community, a sense of encouragement is a really good thing, but maybe sometimes it's going against what you thought. And this can kind of go based on, again, there are some really incredible influencers and there's some really incredible friends who just want to see you succeed and they want to help you. And they could be coming from a really good place and they could be doing a really great job of it. But if it's making you feel overwhelmed and stop things that you're already doing for yourself to kind of gear up into doing this different thing, then I would say that's not a great move for you either right now, right? And so I just like to encourage you to take control over your life. You are here, you are listening to this podcast because you want to create healthier habits in your life. You want to create a healthy lifestyle that allows you to have your energy back, to have your confidence back. And part of that confidence is knowing what choices are going to be best for you and your body and your mental health and your family. And so that's where today's episode is all about, encouraging you to look at the big picture and how often you are maybe suppressing gut feelings or knowing what works best for you and your family because somebody or something else out there told you that there's something better out there. And so you ignore everything else that seemed maybe really simple or boring. And maybe this isn't going to work because a lot of times the simple, boring things, they absolutely work, but it takes consistency and it takes time. And in today's day and age, we are all about instant gratification, right? And so if we see something that's like, you're going to get results so much faster, you're going to be able to do this so much quicker, we're very tempted to go in that direction. But at the end of the day, if it sounds too good to be true, it generally is. So take a look at some of the things that you're doing and don't give up on them. Stay true to yourself and stay true to what you know is going to work for you. Now, I do like to be really real because the fact of the matter is that I can be very easily influenced as well. And I think that sometimes this comes with the territory of my overall, messaging to you every time is you're going to mess up. You're going to allow yourself to be influenced. None of that is a failure, though. And that's what I want to be really clear on is that all of these questions that I ask you today or any day, but some of the things that I want you to reflect on, none of them are mistakes. None of them are failures. All of them are lessons. And all of them are being brought to the surface, hopefully, so that you can start to recognize some of the areas of your life that maybe you have let get out of your own personal control so that you can take some of that control and you can take some of that power back. Now, some examples, I can be very easily influenced. As a matter of fact, this entire episode was inspired because a few weeks ago, I saw some influencers that I really respect, and they're not just influencers, they're coaches, and they've been doing this for years, and they have established apps, and they're super fit, and they have families and all of the things. And a couple different people, ironically, were talking about how they were, not getting into their fitness routine as often, or things were coming up and they weren't working out as often in the week as they normally would, or whatever. And I started to sit back and be like, oh, well, if they're doing it, why? I don't need to be as consistent as I have been. What if I just cut back on a few days a week? I don't need to do 4 or 5 days a week. What if I only did 2 or 3? And I found myself thinking this, well, if they're doing it, maybe I should do that too. And I had to stop myself and think, hold on, do you even have a need to pull back and take a break right now? Because sometimes, yes, sometimes there is. But like right now, what would be my purpose in doing that? It would genuinely just be because, oh, well, these other people that I really respect said that they're pulling away. So maybe I don't have to make myself get up and work out in the morning too. That'd be kind of nice to not have to worry about it. But when I sat back and thought, no, there have been weeks that I've pulled back and I've done less for certain reasons. And when I think back to those weeks, I think, you know what? I was not as happy of a person. I was more sluggish. I was less productive. I felt just more drained and not as present. And I remembered there's a reason that you wake up and work out every day, whether that workout is just as simple as stretching and walking. So when I say workout, we're not doing a full-blown lift, but we are doing something intentionally every single morning because I know it's what helps support my mental health. It sets me up for the most success in my day. And if I skip a day, I don't feel as good. And I find myself kind of chasing, recovering from that for a lot of the day, or at least a lot of the morning until I get a little bit of time to get some movement in for myself. And so again, to stop and reflect like, wow, I would have made that decision just purely based on the fact that I saw other people doing it. And this leads me into my next point is that, yeah, social media and other people watching other moms, go through struggles and the way that they handle those struggles and react to them can be really helpful and beneficial because when we can see another mom giving herself grace and saying, it's okay if I didn't get to all 5 workouts in this week. All of this stuff was going on and it didn't make sense for me. I appreciate that realness. I think that there's more and more of that brought to social media and brought up and talked about in this world, which I think is amazing. But I think that there's a very delicate balance then that takes place between the moms that are receiving that of, okay, this is great. I'm not just looking at highlight reels because sometimes if it looks like everybody else has it all together and you don't, we find ourselves beating ourselves up and thinking, gosh, why does everyone else have it together and I don't? So I love that we're breaking free from that cycle, but I think we also have to be very careful here and not give ourselves too much grace or not believe that that's the way to handle it, because at the end of the day, you have to be able to reflect on your own circumstances, on how your mind reacts, how your body reacts to certain circumstances, and find what works for you. So for others, maybe pulling away and exercising less or doing different types of exercises is what's going to work best for them. But maybe for you, it's not what works best. Doesn't support your mindset the most. It doesn't support your body the most. And it all comes down to, it is so circumstantial, and it depends on the circumstances happening in your life. What is the life situation that's causing you to need to give yourself some grace? Because absolutely, I think that as moms, so many of us need to give ourselves more grace than we do. But like I said, there is a very delicate balance of giving too much grace and then just letting things be excuses, right? Because there's always going to be life circumstances. But to me, there is no life circumstance or excuse that should cause you to stop taking care of yourself. And that is the entire purpose of this whole show, this whole podcast, is that no matter what is going on in your life, if you don't take care of yourself too, how can you be expected to deal with the difficult things that are going on in your life? It is so much harder to deal with those things if you can't take care of yourself first. So again, are you being influenced by all of the moms out there that are struggling and are in survival mode, or in the thick of it, and making jokes about it on Instagram and things like that, and just like, well, this is it. We're in the thick of it. It is what it is. I'll take care of myself one day again. Are you letting that influence you to let it be okay to not take care of yourself too? Because I'm telling you, that is not okay. It might be more normal, but it should not be normal. And that is what we as a society need to break through. Because the more that you can take care of yourself, the more that you can take care of everything else and actually enjoy doing it and have more energy doing it. And that's why all of the podcast episodes that I've talked about, especially early on with the different habits and things that you can do to take care of yourself, we're not talking about making sacrifices here to go to the gym every day. We're not talking about going on a diet and only eating super duper healthy clean. We're talking about the realistic things that don't take up a ton of time or energy in your day or in your week, so that you can take care of yourself and feel like your best self every day. We need to get rid of this norm that moms live in survival mode and this is just how it is, because it's hard. Yeah, it's hard, but it gets harder when you don't take care of yourself. So again, ask yourself, are you letting certain instances, certain people, whether they're friends, family members, or influencers online, give you a little too much permission to not take care of yourself? And I want to give you another example of a really, really difficult circumstance that happened in my life a few years ago. I was one, I don't talk about it that much, but I went through a really challenging miscarriage. And this is something, if you want, again, I'd love your feedback. If you'd like for me to do an entire podcast surrounding this topic, I can. But I went through a really challenging miscarriage, and I had that miscarriage around 11 or 12 weeks, and had to have an emergency D&C, and I ended up in the hospital, and even that D&C couldn't take place for hours and hours, and I was in labor essentially, and it was just very difficult. And I know that there are so many other women who have gone through very similar or even worse experiences than this one. And I think that it's not talked about enough. And after opening up about it and sharing about it, I had so many moms come to me and say, I've been through a miscarriage as well. If you ever need anything, come talk to me. And so amazing to hear that. And just so you know, as well as a listener, I am also here as an open ear or somebody to talk to about this, because it can be such an isolating, such a difficult thing to go through. And if you don't have community who understands, it can make it even more difficult. So just know that I am here for you. However, my entire point of this is that I'm so grateful that in those moments I recognized, okay, I can go into a downward spiral of mental struggles and depression and all kinds of things. But I know that if I don't take care of myself right now, that is exactly where I will end up. And so being able to recognize in those moments, okay, the very basic things that I need to do so that I don't find myself at the bottom of a downward spiral. I know I need to keep fueling my body. I know I need to keep hydrating myself. I know I need to keep moving my body. And so just days, 2 to 3 days after that procedure, I still didn't feel great. I still didn't feel like myself, but I made myself move my body in some way every morning from then on out until I slowly rebuilt my strength back up to full blown lifting workouts. And it took a couple weeks, but I knew if I didn't prioritize myself and make my body and my mind a priority, that it would be so much harder to come back from those things. And so, again, I cannot influence you enough to take care of your body and your mind in a way that makes sense for you, in a way that feels good for you. All right, I want to pivot a little bit because I think another factor that can sometimes affect the decisions that we make is how we believe it's going to look to other people. And we allow some of the decisions we make to be because, oh, well, I don't want so and so to think I'm better than them, or I don't want so and so to think like that I think that of them for a certain way just because I make certain choices in this way, or, in certain circumstances where maybe you are out drinking and you say, you know what, you guys, I really need to go to bed. I've got XYZ going on in the morning. And there's, the peer pressure or comments coming at you or things like that. And so you stay because you don't want other people to think that you're being a certain way or whatever, right? And it's those kinds of instances where that can be really hard in those moments. But I want you to start reflecting on, when are you making choices that aren't in your best interest, but they're in others, just for the pure fact of you don't want to offend someone else. You don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. You don't want to make them feel a certain way, right? And that's what I mean by like in their best interest. So how often are you making those kind of decisions? And how often can you take a step back and be like, you know what? I can't worry about what you think about me or about yourself. I just have to make the right decision for myself in this moment right now. Because again, at the end of the day, people are going to think what they want to think. Whether you stay or you go or you make whatever decision is best for you, you're not in control of other people's thoughts. You're not in control of other people's actions. All you can do is take control of yourself. And you cannot let what other people think affect whether or not you do the right thing for you. Because when you do that right thing for you, one of two things are going to happen. One, you're going to feel better for yourself, but maybe you'll even influence them to make a better decision for them this time or even the next time. Because, oh, wow, well, she went home and she felt great and she was able to move on with her next day. And gosh, I really didn't need to stay for that extra drink. You know what? Next time I'm going to go home early too. Maybe you'll be the influencer in a positive way for the next time. Or number two, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen because maybe they feel uncomfortable, maybe they talk, maybe whatever. But that doesn't have to affect you if you don't let it. Right? You have to do what's best for you. And oftentimes what I found when people do make comments like that, or they talk, or they make negative comments, or make something mean something that you didn't mean for it to, it's often because they're projecting some insecurities that they have about themselves, and they're projecting them onto you. And that maybe it makes them feel bad when you can have that, strength to make that best decision for yourself. And they're not doing that and they feel guilty and they project that onto you as well. And so oftentimes we will hear comments or things will come back to us and it'll hurt and it'll feel deeply personal or like a personal attack when in reality, it wasn't that at all. It was just their own projections coming out onto you. And it sounded like a personal attack, but it wasn't. And so again, we are in control of our own thoughts and our own actions. And so if we choose not to make it mean something personal, then we can, again, let that go. Because we don't have, especially as moms, we don't have a ton of extra space and energy to be worrying about what other people think about us. We don't have that kind of time or energy, right? And I think that that's been such a blessing of motherhood, even for myself, to be like, I genuinely don't have time to worry about what you think about me, which again, I think has really helped me succeed in business in itself, because I just keep putting things out there. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other, not worrying about what other people are going to think about it. And that is exactly why I keep doing what I'm doing, and I keep putting things out there and ignore all of the other noise most of the time and keep going, because I don't have the time or energy to worry about what other people are going to think of me, right? That's on them. That's in their control. If they don't like it, then they don't have to listen, and that's okay. And that's okay with me. And those are all examples that I want to project onto you, because you also don't have time, space, or energy to be worrying about what other people think or say about you. You have to keep doing what's best for you and your family and your kids. And sometimes it's not always making the easy decision. Sometimes that's, gosh, all I want to do is just veg out and have a glass of wine and watch Netflix. It's been an exhausting, hard day and I feel like garbage. Well, if it's been an exhausting, hard day and you already feel like garbage, wine and a Netflix binge is not what's going to make you feel better. Water and an earlier bedtime is going to make you feel better. So sometimes it is making that harder choice, right? And doing what is truly best for you. So my resounding message for you today, and the question that I want you to ask yourself throughout the rest of the week, really, I want you to ask yourself why you find yourself making certain choices. Are you making certain choices because they're in your best interest, because you know that that's what's going to make you feel better on the inside and out, truly? Or are you making certain choices because that's what so-and-so does, or that's what you saw on Instagram, or this morning routine really works for this person, maybe I should try it in my life? Why are you making certain choices? And how can you start shifting your choices and going really inward, deep inward inside yourself and asking, what does my body and mind and family need right now so that I can take care of myself in a way that works for me? And just remember, it's a process. You're not going to find all of the magical solutions overnight. All you can do is try and allow yourself to have some trial and error. Because at the end of the day, the time's going to pass anyways. So would you rather the time pass trying a whole bunch of things and finally figuring it out? Or the time pass not trying anything out of fear, trying one thing really hard and letting it knock you down if it doesn't work, and not getting back up for another year, or consistently trying a whole bunch of different things over the course of a year or 2 years until you find the things that stick, because you learned how to really listen to your body and your mind and your lifestyle and find what genuinely worked for you, not trying to put somebody else's perfect plan into your own life. So with that, I encourage you, please share this episode with somebody that you know needs to hear it today. And I have some really, really exciting news coming next week. We have also got Mother's Day coming up, and I've got some really fun, exciting plans for that. So if you are not already on my newsletter or on my email list, I encourage you to hop on over to my website, AllisonHaleyFitness.com. You can learn and read more about me and what I have to offer. You can also find some free resources and get on the email list that way as well, and get yourself maybe a free nutrition guide or habit guide along the way. So with that, I will see you in the next episode. Thank you for joining me today. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Realistically Consistent. If today's episode helped you, please hit subscribe and leave a quick rating, as it helps more moms find the show. You can visit AllisonHaleyFitness.com for more tools, tips, and ways to stay connected. And just as a quick reminder, I'm here to share general information and encouragement, but this podcast isn't meant to replace professional medical or health advice. Everyone's circumstances are different, so be sure to check in with your trusted healthcare provider before making any big changes. Thanks again for being here, and until next time, keep showing up for yourself one realistic step at a time.